Eric Lindstrom, creative director. What people really want is an experience that sets their hair on fire. It's crucial for you to be able to have an evolving experience through the game from initial start all the way to the exciting conclusion.
Toby Gard, cinematics director. The Underworld is a great name because that really is kind of the basis of the quest that she's on, is that it's kind of getting down in deeper, really, than she's ever gone before, both in terms of the location she goes to, but also sort of her internal journey as well.
Daniel Newberger, lead artist. I think really what's going to surprise fans is just the overall tone. The tone of this game is a lot darker, just like the name would have you believe. It's more of a somber feel to a Tomb Raider game than we've had before. The storyline is kind of melodramatic, and we try to really bring that into the environments and really make you feel that emotion that Lara must be going through at the time.
Harley White Widow, lead designer. The really interesting new gear that she has, the amazing environments, and the really just mind-boggling art for both the character model and the environment model. All of that stuff comes together to be an extraordinarily polished and well-executed whole.
Rob Pavey, lead programmer. The wide-open environments and just huge epic puzzles are really, I think, what will attract the fans the most. Lara gets to do things that the fans have always wanted to do.
Primo Navidad, lead animator. I think when they start seeing the motion and the movement matching the realistic modeling, they're going to be like, whoa. And then as they traverse through the levels and find out they could climb on this, jump onto that, I think it's going to blow their minds. Giving the player the power to explore and actually be Lara is going to blow them away, because we're not going to limit them to what they can do. They're going to be limited by their imagination.
Cam Yu, lead character artist. I think people are going to be really surprised at how detailed the world is and how detailed the characters are. A lot of thought and a lot of work has gone into creating these environments and characters, and it's not like anything that anybody's seen before. It's just such a lush environment. It's so immersive. When people start playing it, they'll think they're actually in the world. They'll be completely engrossed. I truly believe that.
In Underworld, we wanted to raise the stakes because we wanted a much more epic experience.
The overall vision of the game is big and epic.
We knew that we had to rebuild our engine from scratch. We really wanted to stretch the limits of the system.
We wanted Lara to be able to go into the world and embark on this epic adventure, but rather than having her go out and save the world as traditionally done, we wanted to turn that on its head.
In this Tomb Raider, we go to a lot of different places. We go to the bottom of the ocean. You go to icy underworlds. You visit jungles. We really wanted to give a sense that she had to go all over the world to accomplish her goal. You have death-defying leaps, climbing, and probably some of the most sinister traps we've ever put in a Tomb Raider game, to really give Lara a sense that she's overcoming her biggest obstacle ever. The environments in Tomb Raider are beautiful, but don't stand around too long or they'll definitely bite you.
One of the wonderful things about the current generation of platforms is it allows us to be limited only by really our imagination. The truth is that her skills, her environments, her abilities have been so expanded upon that you can do things with Lara Croft in Underworld that you can't do with any video game character anywhere. I think we've really turned the page in terms of what the player can expect when they move into one of these worlds and they just find that it's mind-bogglingly detailed.
Tomb Raider stories have always been about Lara Croft going out into the world, discovering lost cities and tombs, and finding artifacts. So in Underworld, we wanted to raise the stakes. What Lara does is she goes after the artifact she's looking for, but finds out fairly early on that doing so is actually dragging the world to a possible catastrophe situation. You get excited, you get thrilled, the hair stands up on the back of your neck, because what you're doing isn't just a game mechanic. You're in the location. You're Lara.
Well, I've always been interested in mythology. I think that's fascinating to try and understand why people have such similar myths and sometimes such dissimilar myths.
It took a lot of time to figure out what the mythology of the game should be, because it's not something to be determined in isolation. In terms of coming up with all the different places she would go, there were visual things to be considered. That leads to the mythology you would find in those places. That leads back to what locations would be affected, and vice versa.
When you look back through the cultural past, there's lots of overlap of cultures prior to the point when we can know about them.
Got to dig into Hindu culture in Thailand. We got to get into the Maya in Mexico. And we have all these local cultures, but then a unifying thread that leads her to all these locations is a much earlier mythology that we are saying is the Norse thread. And that was the piece that brought it all together.
Various myths use different names, but they all apply to the same remnants of the ancient world.
In Tomb Raider Underworld, Lara Croft uncovers the truth behind the myth of the Norse civilization. On her journey, she basically realizes that she needs to recover Thor's hammer.
Thor's hammer is actually one of the most interesting archaeological pieces of mythology. It's compelling because it's actually so powerful that it is capable of killing immortal gods.
As Lara fully uncovers the sort of secrets behind Norse mythology, she realizes that the hammer itself could possibly unleash Ragnarok, the end of the world.
Pursuing her own goals is actually putting the world in danger.
I need Thor's belt to get his hammer, and I need the hammer to kill a god.
Beautiful is kind of a funny word when you're talking about games, because you can have an environment that's beautiful, and yet at the same time it's foreboding and scary and dark.
One of the things that we're really focusing on in this game isn't just the lush environments on the top level. Underworld, as the name would have you believe, it's a lot darker and more sinister than other Tomb Raider games have been.
One of the things that makes our environments beautiful is the amount of detail that goes into them. That same detail is one of the things that makes them dangerous.
When she goes to Mexico, it's chucking down rain, and it's doing it not just because we can make it rain, it's because it's a scene that wants rain. It's a mood that we want to have her pursuing this underworld.
The way the environment can harm you is definitely abundant. You're climbing up sheer cliff walls, you're jumping over grand chasms, you're on a motorcycle jumping over spiked pits.
Cryptids are creatures which exist in mythology, and so we have combined that mythology with some of the mythology about some of the deepest underworlds that she visits to get some very, very scary creatures. For example, in Thailand, you will encounter these creatures called nagas, and they are intelligent lizards that can climb on walls, they can spit poison, and band up to come after you. The giant spider. This is a spider which, after many, many millions of years of exposure to some of the forces that create these deepest underworlds, has become gigantic and albino. It's a really scary thing to encounter in a dark tomb.
Then there's the class, which are the foes that transcend the natural boundaries of the world. And to have our environments detailed, be able to come out and be greater participants in the creation of that emotional experience is one of the more exciting things about Next Gen. Part of the experience we wanted players to have was to just wade into this large interconnected environment and to start exploring.
The biggest improvement was make the environments interact with the player. We don't want the environments to just be this big, empty, dead space that you're in. We want the environments to be part of the challenge and also part of the reward of what you're doing in the Tomb Raider game.
We wanted to give her this environment that was rich to explore, but also the tools and the mechanisms by which she can go in and master that environment.
In this game, we really wanted to stray away from the linear path. We really wanted the player to have some choice, just like in the real world. You can move objects through the world. Her grapple now isn't just a way to swing from A to B, but you can climb with it, you can swing with it, you can go to the wall, you can rappel up and down.
Her ATV has been revamped so that it can do everything you would expect of a vehicle like that. It can make jumps longer, it can go much faster. You can use it to knock things down. You can use it to squish enemies.
The The way we made exploration, as far as the environments go, feel more real and believable is just detail. Every square inch of the game has what you'd expect to see. You really aren't just in an environment, you're part of an environment, and using the environment to your advantage is the goal. It is the puzzle. It is what you're trying to solve.
When we first sat down to talk about what additions we would make to Tomb Raider Underworld, what we said is, what are her current limitations? And what limitations does she have that doesn't make sense for her to have? She's a very strong, fearless, independent woman who runs around out in the most dangerous parts of the world, and that was what gave rise to the concept of what could Lara do.
This is the first time Tomb Raider has ever used motion capture. So Lara is definitely almost superhuman. So we had Olympic caliber gymnasts being motion captured for Lara.
What could Lara do affects all of the combat decisions we made. So the first thing that we did was decide that she was going to be able to shoot at 2 different targets at the same time.
We also worked on Lara interacting with the enemies, like running up and vaulting over and hitting them, or running up and flipping off and shooting them. So there's going to be a lot of nice dynamic interaction with enemies coming up.
She can now balance walk on thin beams, but if she had the capacity of doing that, why wouldn't she be able to climb up onto a pole and balance walk on the pole? So she can do that too.
Now she can take out her gun, switch hands, and shoot if she's on a pillar, or if she's on a ledge, or if she's on a balance beam. She can still do combat.
All these create a string of animations that just is enormous.
The number of animations Lara has is rumored at 1,600. But we have another batch that adds another couple hundred. So, I mean, I wouldn't be shy to say she has over 2,000 animations.
With this current generation of systems, they just make Lara all that more believable. She does really cool things, like when she walks through bushes, she'll push them out of the way. So it's very contextual. It makes her seem like she's a part of the environment. She's very much alive. You'll see a lot of detail in there that we've never been able to achieve before. All this sort of makes her some of that you can actually relate to. The player will actually feel like they're a part of this world. And I think for new players, it's that sense of discovery that they're going to find in this game, which is really exciting.
One of the things I'm going to take away from this game is actually the journey of building it. The team of animators that I have, the way we tackled every problem we had, it was definitely a team effort. You know, everyone contributed a little bit of their own personality and ideas to create what we had, what you see on screen. You know, those guys really took it to it and really took that mantra, what can she do, to heart, and pushed it. I mean, out the window. I mean, they went crazy.
We try to have a situation such that there are no invisible walls, there are no little gotchas that tell you, I can't go there, I can't do that. So by filling in all those little inconsistencies, we made the game not only much more fully functional and richer, but we gave players the ability to really determine their own course of action.
Well, if I had to pick my favorite part of the game, not to sound biased, I'd have to say it's the environments. I'm not going to choose between which one's my favorite environment because I like them all so much, but I just like the overall variety, lushness, the real life we've been able to bring in.
Being on this project from the beginning has been an amazing experience for me. People were so thrilled to see Lara Croft step from a sort of cartoon into a more lifelike, real-world character, that she had emotions and reactions, and that the world affected her as she was affecting it.
I played Tomb Raider when I was young, and I never dreamed that I'd actually be working on the game, but when the opportunity came up, I was really excited. But at the same time, I knew what kind of history is behind this game, and I realized what a strong fan base was out there. So I'm really hoping that, you know, we've incorporated everything that people love about Lara. This is the Lara that I think that fans have been looking forward to for a long time.
Well, Underworld is by far the most amazing looking Tomb Raider game that's ever been made. I mean, it looks fantastic. And for me, the Tomb Raider experience really is about going to these locations, and so when they're actually so realistic and so beautifully portrayed, then I think that that's what takes you into that world and delivers that mystery. She's always been going and finding these objects of power, and then, I don't know what she does with them, keeps them in the bathroom, I suppose.